Good afternoon, everyone. Christina here from Authentic Action Coaching. Hope everyone is well. Welcome back to Turbocharge Your Motivation. We're now in week 4, technically. I did last time have some technical challenges. So this is a re-record. This is a week 4, take 2, if you will. So it's just going to be even better than the first one was. The sound failed me last time, but this time I'm pretty certain I've got it covered. So I'm thrilled to have you here. If you haven't caught the rest of the series, do go back on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to play catch up. But this is your 7 M's of motivation, a really simple framework to help you return to your goal that you're working on, to help invigorate your motivation. Because as we know, unfortunately, motivation doesn't stay with us day in, day out. It ebbs and flows, much like our energy levels. So this 7 M's of motivation is designed to be very simple to help reinvigorate your energy around the goal that you're working towards. For those that don't know me, my name is Christina Lord. I'm an energy leadership coach and a breathwork facilitator. And I'm on a bit of a mission to rewrite the resilience rule book. What do I mean by that? Well, because ultimately we've come from a very hustle culture, and whilst I love to have a bit of hyper focus and get cracking on getting stuff done, I do and have done recognize that we can't keep going with this all or nothing mentality, and that we need to learn how to ride the waves more sustainably. Because ultimately, I want to help busy professionals like you burn bright without burning out. Because I believe that your success should never cost you your health. And that is something that I see again and again. Having myself been through a couple of burnouts in my corporate careers, and certainly as an entrepreneur, I definitely fall foul to my energy levels dipping because of the relentless nature that can be part of running your own business. I talk to many people about the challenges in many industries of burnout, and I believe that part of that is that we learn how to run on fumes and we're not refueling ourselves. So we're often depleted and just trying to work on willpower alone, which we know is not sustainable. And it ends up actually affecting not just our relationships or our work, but our actual own physical and mental health. So let's do a quick recap of the last few weeks. Week 1 of the 7 M's of motivation framework was meaning. And we start with meaning because, as Simon Sinek said, you've just got to always come back to the why. Why am I doing this? What is the purpose of me working towards this goal? So meaning, we covered the power of aligning your goals with what you value, your core values, or the ultimate mission that you're on to try and drive something that is really meaningful to you. So it kind of sparks that inner flame and has you ignited into action. So that was week 1, meaning. Week 2 was mindset. And mindset, we explored how our thoughts shape our actions and how reframing challenges, because like the other week when I had tech challenges, it did floor me for a little bit, but we have to learn how to be more flexible, adaptable, and agile to spring back, but importantly, have enough energy to do so. So with mindset, we talk about how we are more aware of the thoughts we think that create the feelings that we feel, and then the actions that we do or don't take. And so with reframing with a mindset, we can view everything as, well, gravy, if you like, that there are going to be things that go well, and they're equally going to be things that don't go well. And that is just the nature of life. So week 3 was mantra. And here we talked about the power of being intentional with your words. That actually words carry energy. They influence hugely how we feel about ourselves, our belief system. And not only that, words actually repeated, as mantras are designed to be able to shift your focus and therefore your mindset into a place of possibility, which is a growth mindset of, I may not know this yet, but I am working towards it. So you're almost welcoming the fact that things are probably going to go wrong, but that's all part of the adventure. So the mantra was really designed to actually shift you out of, like, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, into a place of, well, let's find out. And I'm willing to actually experiment and to move forward in the direction that I believe is meaningful to me. So you'll notice with each layer, from meaning, mindset, and mantra, that it is a layering effect that happens. And the more we layer, the more we repeat and go back to, why is this goal meaningful to me? Where is my mindset? What is the story I'm telling myself? The more we can actually tune into mantras that remind us. And I love a mantra that has humor in it. If you can make yourself laugh and relax yourself, then generally you're going to be more open-minded, curious, and therefore more creative and more action orientated, right? So with that in mind, let's go on to week 4, which is today, which is the M for metric. So week 4, metric. So what do I mean by metric? Well, I mean a simple way to measure progress. So it could be a number, it could be a percentage, a time frame, or even a streak of completed tasks. Metrics give us tangible proof that we've actually moved forward. But here's where I see most people go wrong with this. They let metrics control their emotions. So rather than using it as a kind of tool for success, it's almost like a stick to beat yourself over the head with. So why metrics are the fourth M? What does this have to do with motivation? Well, have you ever worked towards a goal and felt like you weren't getting anywhere? Have you ever felt trapped in probably a feeling of imposter syndrome of, well, who am I to be able to work on this goal? Maybe this is not meant to be. Often, when we are operating outside of our comfort zone into our learning and growth zones, that is when our inner protector, also known as your shitty committee, tend to strike up and start saying loud inner thoughts, feeding the fact that actually creating more resistance for you to diminish your motivation versus being able to push through it. So this is where metrics can really, really help. So they show you the small wins along the way, because with anything, when we're working towards something, we're building upon. It's seldom a one and done. It's when we're trying to build your bicep muscle, we have to do reps, right? It's not that you do a few and then suddenly this muscle produces. No, over time, we do a number of reps consistently. We go to the gym or we use weights at home to be able to prime it regularly. So it's almost being okay with some elements of the mundane to be able to acknowledge the repetition of small tasks, one step at a time, that then moves the needle. So allows us to actually move forward in a meaningful way. So let's consider metrics. Well, they create clarity. And I mean, they kind of remove the emotion out of it. So it makes it very black and white. You either are making progress or you're not. So we're not concerned about the whys and wherefores. We're just purely looking at this number of, have I, done the number of reps that I promised I would do today? Have I reached out to the number of people that I said I would today? And you just go through with the clear focus of, I just need to do that. So what? Now what? And just get on with it and do it. Because sometimes the stinking thinking in our head sidetracks us and it can create a spiral, which then drains us of our energy, drains us of our motivation. And then we can find ourselves getting stuck in procrastination mode and not being able to move forward. So that creation of clarity is really key. The next one is that it boosts confidence because we actually see progress, even in the tiny small steps. So it builds a belief in you. Yeah. So you can actually see, well, hold on, incrementally, I showed up today. Yeah. Even when the going got tough, or even when I didn't want to, I made sure that I actually showed up and did what I said I was going to do. So that confidence boost is you're creating confidence. And I love a quote from Alex Hormozy that talks about, don't build confidence, build evidence. Confidence comes as a result of evidence, not the other way around. So often we think, oh, well, I'll do it when I'm feeling more confident. But the irony is the confidence comes from taking the action. So the third real benefit of using a metric is to increase your motivation. So when we track something, we're focused on it, aren't we? So we're more likely to keep doing it. We're more likely to create momentum by lots of little tasks, building a habit, building a way of being, as opposed to forcing yourself to do something. So when you think of an example, I've used fitness as an example. How about when you're growing your business, for any entrepreneurs out there, or maybe you're a business development manager, and you are all about going out and finding more business. Well, if you think about just saying, I want more clients, well, that's a bit vague, isn't it? When we're not really very clear. What we need to ask ourselves is, well, what does success look like? What number am I shooting for? So by saying I will reach out to 5 potential clients per week for the next month, that gives you a clearly articulated, trackable, action-oriented goal. So by that, it simplifies it. So you can just say, nope, that's what I'm doing. I'm running a test. I'm running an experiment for a period of time, and then I will look at the results. So we're not attaching ourselves to the outcome. We're just saying, I'm going to show up. I'm going to reach out to these 5 clients and keep moving forward. So I mentioned briefly about removing emotion from the task. Well, what's the science behind this? Because I'm all about the science. One of the biggest motivation killers is overthinking and attaching too much emotion to a particular task. So we see this often in what we call imposter syndrome. We get wrapped up in the whole thing of, am I good enough? Or am I experienced enough? Am I knowledgeable enough to be sharing this information? Well, the news is we're all in progress. We're all works in progress. I myself, I study these theories and I practice them, but I'm practicing them alongside my clients because we have a negative bias, we have old conditioning that we have to work towards reconditioning to be able to build new neural pathways to create new habits that are actually serving us and not draining us like they maybe have done before. So research in cognitive neuroscience tells us that when we make a decision based on emotion rather than logic, our brain's limbic system, so it's the oldest part of the brain, responsible for emotions, can hijack our ability to take action. So the amygdala, which is the most primitive part of the brain at the top of the brainstem, is your emotional center. Tiny little part of your brain, but it is part of our survival network, our monkey mind, if you will. And if we sense fear, if we're outside of our comfort zone, it will sound off an alarm. Have you ever been in a building? I certainly, in the co-working space I'm in, every Thursday there, or every Wednesday, I believe, there is a very, very loud fire alarm. And it always makes me laugh because I'm like, that's what happens in our system when we feel overwhelm or anxiety, because our central nervous system is sounding off an alarm because it's telling your body you're not safe. But actually, that is just an emotional, unconscious reaction. And what we need to be able to do is to recognize when that's happening, recognize that an alarm is going off, and actually just say, well, okay, the alarm's going off. And that's when we can start to use things like our breath, things like a growth mindset shift, asking ourselves some questions to help calm our central nervous system, calm our breathing, calm our bodies, tell ourselves that, okay, you are doing something that feels uncomfortable. So, of course, your alarm's going to go off, but that's okay. In fact, it's totally natural, and your biology and neurobiology is working as it should, as it's designed to do. But we need to be able to override that and to hold space for that part of ourselves in order to keep moving forward, even when it's uncomfortable. So, when we're able to see a task just as a number, it's kind of like a neutral data point. So, we can actually remove the overwhelm and just say, well, I'm just going to do this thing. I'm just going to move forward and take action. So, instead of thinking, I'm failing at this goal. Oh, look at the numbers and bashing yourself over the head with it. We can use a reframe as well and say, oh, well, hold on. Okay, I didn't maybe do everything I set out to do and reach that number, but maybe I've done 10 out of the 12 that I wanted to do this month. And actually, when I work that out as a percentage, it's an 83% success percentage. So it is still progress. Any move forward is still progress. I think we can all say, me included, that we can feel immense pressure that we've got to be progressing in leaps and bounds when actually it's one step at a time. So a practical tip here is the next time you feel frustrated, look at your metric as a neutral piece of data, not a judgment of your own worth. On Monday, my Monday motivation that I shared was all about being able to, not tie your self-worth to a data point. And instead, just know that it's just information, not good or bad, just information. What is that telling me? And what action can I take now in this moment to move on from this fact, this piece of information? So, how to set a motivating metric? Well, not all metrics are helpful. The key is to set a realistic motivating metric that keeps you moving forward. So I absolutely love the book Atomic Habits. And he always talks about starting small, which is really, really important. I know that when I set my bar too high, I start off really well, but I don't ever finish. So by lowering the bar, James Clear from Atomic Habits explains that low effort and achievable reps create momentum and trigger kind of more lower dopamine hits, but still they keep us more motivated throughout. So slow and steady builds the race. So an example, if your goal is to write a book, don't aim for a full chapter every day. Instead, set a metric of, say, I don't know, 100 words a day. Small enough that when you're maybe feeling low in motivation, that you can still push through that, because the resistance is real. And you speak to a lot of authors or a lot of content creators, and that feeling of imposter, that feeling of demotivation is still there. So it's important that we actually make it achievable rather than raising the bar far too high. So the next thing that I want to really talk about is using the metric to overcome low morale. So let's be real, motivation isn't always high. We know that. And so by tracking your metrics, they can boost morale. So I'm a big believer in either reflecting it by the end of your day and what you're grateful for. So what have I achieved today? And it could just be small things, small wins. And it could be something whereby, yes, it's action orientated, being grateful for something that you've done, but it could equally be, I am pleased about how I have felt today. Maybe you've spent some time honoring what you value. Maybe you've spent some time actually taking some time out and resting, as opposed to constantly being switched on. That's equally a success. So it may be that part of your metric is to build in some rest time in between. So when you're feeling stuck, look back at your progress. So this is why it's great at the end of the day or the end of the week or the month that you can actually start to see a streak of completed days. And it can kind of reignite your drive. It can keep you going, or it can help you just get back on the wagon and say, you know what? I wasn't feeling well yesterday, and that's okay. But I have a new opportunity to get back on the horse and continue on. So, a little bit of an example is, again, if you've exercised 15 times this month, for example, but your goal was to do it 20, it's still more than zero, isn't it? Focus on what's working versus what's not working, because what we focus on expands. And so, far better, we focus on something where we have the opportunity to do something about it versus a berating way of focusing on a sense of lack of what we didn't do, of regret, because that doesn't make us feel good. And it's not really a sustainable way of motivating ourselves. So, a quick reflection exercise. What is one metric you can track to keep yourself on course? What is that goal that you're working towards, and what metrics are you working towards, and what works for you? Um, I'd love to know your key takeaways from what I've shared with you today. Um, a little bit of a recap to help you think about what those takeaways are. Metrics help measure progress. They help boost your confidence because they're giving you more evidence over what you are doing as opposed to what you're not doing. And they help remove emotional overwhelm. They keep you on track because if you keep them small, achievable, you start to feel that the momentum is produced. And then when you have morale dip days, low motivation, you can dip back into your meaning, why you started. You can dip back into your mindset. You can observe how you're thinking. What are the thoughts you're telling yourself? And do that reframe of, is this helping me? And then you can pick another thought. You can focus your attention on another thought, a more uplifting growth mindset thought that's going to help you feel emotionally better, that's going to then drive more action. I hope you found that helpful. I would really, really love to hear your metric. I would love to hear your tips on how you keep your motivation high, and how you sustain your motivation, because I think that's really the cusp of this. It's all about really simple tools. I think that it's the more simple the tool, the easier it is to implement. If we overcomplicate things, we tend to get stuck and we tend to shift our focus onto another framework. Oh, hey, Danica. I love that you've shared this. Metrics are insightful. I mean, you're metric queen, Danica, aren't you? So just rediscovered a slight edge. That is into the micro actions. Oh, tell me more. Share resources in the chat, Danica. Thank you. And thank you for popping on and tuning in. If you enjoyed this, then please look out for my next live next Tuesday. I will share details a few days ahead of time. It'll be around lunchtime. And please press replay when I get my teeth in to catch some of my other 7 M's of motivation. If you would like your own copy of the framework, then drop a copy of Send Me the Guide, and I will do just that. It's free. It's there for you. And I will see you next week on next week's Tuesday Live, all about turbocharging your motivation. Take care. Have a great rest of your week and see you on the other side.